I was in therapy at one time, and I was talking to the therapist about, the industry and trouble I was having and the rejection and that. And he was saying, Bill, you're describing it like it's a big giant that has its foot on your neck. I said, yeah, that's how I feel sometimes. He said, there's one thing you should always remember, Bill. If a giant has his foot on your neck, always remember, you can always bite his toe.
Welcome to Not All Hood. He's been called the godfather of African American cinema. Bill Duke is a trailblazing filmmaker and actor who continues to leave his mark on Hollywood. Think Black Lightning. His iconic roles and work as a director have always celebrated the spectrum of the Black experience, and that celebration continued when he sat with us. We went back to a time when just a handful of Blacks were paving the way for generations of talent to come. Back to that time when he took part in transcendental meditation after making a bet and got off drugs for good. And he explained how a very close encounter with death gave him life. Enjoy the conversation.
So I think this would be a really cool opportunity. I'm creating a space for the three of us to mention one or two things that we are grateful for.
All right.
Candace, you ladies first.
You know what? I am grateful for just being alive and having options, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Because there have been so many times in our life, and I say collectively, African Americans, Blacks, immigrants, whatever, people of color, the way that we have been treated, where our options have been limited. And I feel like these days, when I turn on the TV, when I immerse myself in the media, I can see myself and I feel myself having those options that I think that my ancestors paved the way for. And that gives me gratitude immensely. Gratitude that I know my parents are excited about, and that I want to make sure that I fulfill. I'm very grateful for that. Every day, options is something really good. I remember I went to Ghana, it was like 20, 30 years ago, and went to the grocery store. And at that time, there were not a lot. I was getting salad dressing. There were like 5 salad dressings. And I was like, wow. Now, I know I was spoiled coming from America and it's different over there. But I was like, wow, options are really important. I was trained to have that. Mm-hmm. And it's good to have that kind of in my sphere to understand, to take advantage of that, because that was created for me.
Brother Duke.
I'm grateful for?
Yeah.
Number one, I'm grateful for my family. Number two, grateful for my health of mind, body, and spirit. Every day I wake up, it's a blessing. Sleeping at night is a blessing. Finding self-love is a blessing. So, have no complaints.
And what about you, sir?
I'm having a moment right now because this was not what I was going to. This was not a setup for what I'm getting ready to say, but I'm having a moment, and I'm sitting across from you, Brother Duke, and I'm having a moment of gratitude for you and your presence, your career, the way you have carried yourself. We were having another episode that we shot with Ray Daniels, and Ray Daniels was talking about his uncle Mike. Uncle Mike was here, and he was talking about in the midst of being around a lot of negativity and a lot of dark energy, Uncle Mike was the one who was telling Ray was 8 years old, there's another way. You don't have to do this. You don't have to be this. And when I think about being a kid, and it was you, Robert Guillaume, and Lou Gossett, who for me really had a profound effect on the way I carry myself, and being able to be able to maintain integrity and dignity in an industry where those two things are usually the first two things to go.
Yeah, on the chopping block real quick, right?
Yeah, you're trying to get through this industry. You're trying to navigate, and you're not only living in a world that tries to condition you to believe that you are nothing. There's also an industry that tries to condition you to make you believe that you are subpar. And all of the, again, the shucking and jiving and the relinquishing of your soul that so many people have to do. You three, when I was a kid, you three are the ones that had a real profound impact on me, because you always carried yourself with your head high, proud to be a Black man without having to wear it on your sleeve, without having to shout it to the world. It's just in your being, in the roles that you chose and your execution and delivery of those roles. And I'm just sitting here, again, I was not even thinking about saying any of this at all, but just in the moment, because I see how that has had an impact on the way I carry myself and walk through this world and walk through this industry, and the effect that has on, the two generations that have come up under me, and how it's always conveyed to me by so many people, how I have affected them. I'm grateful to be able to share that you have affected me in that same way.
God bless you for that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
But in all of that, though, knowing that it wasn't easy. Listen, it's not easy today for someone in your position, but it couldn't have been easy, in the 50s, the 60s. We talk about your contemporaries and Cicely Tyson and Sidney Poitier, right? These are your people.
Yes.
But what was that like to be in that space? And how did you find your sense of who you were? Because wasn't a lot of people who looked like you at that time, especially not your height and your complexion. Let's be real. How did you get through? What's the process?
Well, without sounding corny, a couple of things. One, having God in my life, which has been my guide through everything. But also my parents. They never let my sister and I use any excuse to not succeed. And it wasn't a question of whether you're going to go to college. You're going. Second, from their teaching of my self-regard, I'll give you an example. I was the first Black director on several TV series. And so on my first job, I drive up to the gate, and I have this old car that I got washed, and a little briefcase and a little tie-in suit. And go up to the gate, and I just can't wait to get in there and start, pre-production. So I roll my window down, and the security guard looks at me and he says, "Who are you delivering for?" I said, "What'd you say?" He said, "Who are you delivering for?" Now, the truth is, as I've said this many times, I wanted to say, I'm about to deliver a can of whip ass to you. But if I had said that,
Right.
Sure.
I would have been the angry black man in Hollywood. It never worked.
And how many times did you have to keep yourself from? Can you even count how many times you had to keep yourself from saying that in your career?
Look, he can't even. He's counting up the times now. That is too many times to count.
What was the best part of that moment was I said to him, I'm delivering my talents as the first black director on Knots Landing. Open the gate. Most rewarding thing was the look on his face. So, that's just, I could tell you stories, but
That's big, because that wasn't like, they didn't just put you on a black show.
Yeah.
They put you on
Knots Landing.
That's a mainstream
Mainstream white
CBS,
show.
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
And I was very fortunate because there are a lot of whites that helped me too. Like David Jacobs, Norman Lear, and other people who really hired me based on my talent. And I cannot express enough, in those days, it was rare. But they believed in me. So I feel very fortunate, You always want to say, I never say, from an ego standpoint, ego, ego is edging God out,
Mm-hmm.
But there are people who have supported me and given me, and based upon what my parents taught me, no excuses. There are a lot of excuses that can be used. Doesn't do any good. Got to keep on going.
Yeah, because in this field, there are a lot of no's. So many no's. How do you deal with the no's? Thank you for tuning in to Not All Hood. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe. Do all you can to follow us. You will not regret it. Make sure to join the conversation.
As long as you have a yes inside of you, the no's don't matter.
Mm.
Yeah.
And also you have to have, I believe, a sense of humor.
Mm.
And I've thank God I've had my family had senses of humor, You all like jokes?
Yeah. We like some jokes.
Can I tell you two?
You got a mic?
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
A little black boy was helping his mother bake a cake, and he got white flour over his entire body. And he looks at his mother and he says, Mommy, look, I'm a little white boy. Boom, hits him on his butt. What did I do? Go tell your father what you just said. Goes to his father's room. Daddy, look, what, son? I'm a little white boy. Hits him on his butt. What did I do? Go tell your grandmother what you just said. Goes into his grandmother's room. Grandma, yeah, son. I'm gonna spit it out. I'm a little white boy. Hits him on his butt. He goes back to his mother. His mother said, what lesson did you just learn? You tell me, what lesson did you just learn?
I'm afraid.
Little boy said, what I learned was, I only been white for 5 minutes and I hate you black people already.
See, you weren't telling those jokes decades ago, but you can tell them now. Yeah, you can tell them now.
Can I tell you another thing that happened?
Yeah.
I was on the elevator, right? Came on the elevator, and this older white lady was on the elevator, and when I got her, she backed into the corner and grabbed her purse.
Mm.
And it made me feel a certain way because, she was grabbing and I was grabbing. She was grabbing.
You know what?
I told her, I said, give me the damn purse. I'm sorry. Forgive me. I'm sorry.
But that's the point. You got to have a sense of humor.
You do.
You got to have a sense of humor.
You have to. You can't
do.
survive without it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you do have to recognize how people actually see you. We were talking about this earlier today, and just really kind of knowing when you were Black, right? If nobody told you you were Black, like my parents did not sit down and tell me you are Black. The world told me. The world told me in many different ways. The world told me when I would be trick-or-treating and someone would say, "What are you doing in this neighborhood?" Or the world will tell me because how you speak so well, right? So all of those things, they continue to tell you, the world continues to tell you that you are Black. I'm assuming even at this age, still happening to you at your level.
Well, as there are certain ways of thinking globally and domestically in terms of us as a people. That to a great extent has not changed. I look at a lot of the images on these shows that I see, and a lot of them, young Black men going to prison, young Black men doing this and that, or doing things that are, how can I say, negative. And fewer times do we see us doing really positive things. Now, I was celebrating like everybody else, President Obama. I'm a big fan of Michelle Obama's. They created shock. No one ever expected to see a Black president, but he carried himself with a certain amount of dignity and made us very proud in a lot of ways. And we put him down because he didn't do enough for Black folks. Well, he wasn't the president for Black people. He's the president of the United States. And I just think that one of the things for me that's very disturbing is, I hate to say it, but how we treat each other and how we deal with each other. I think there's going to be an evolution. Our children have to be taught the mutual respect, caring, and loving for themselves and each other, and to not be our own worst enemy.
What's the treatment, for example, that you're talking about?
Treatment?
Yeah, in terms of how we treat each other that you dislike. This was an example. You mean?
Well, the numbers of us killing each other in our neighborhoods is one. Number two, not reaching back. Success we have. It's like happened 10 years ago. I was at a dinner with some friends of mine, some Black executive friends of mine who were very successful. And the gentleman that invited us, very wealthy guy, very posh restaurant, and kept bringing champagne to us. And just the drink bill, I think, was like $1,500. So we leave the restaurant, and there's a homeless gentleman outside sitting on the ground asking for money. And so I took out $10 and I gave it to him. As I walked away, my buddy said, "What did you do that for?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "What'd you give him that money for?" I said, "He's homeless. He needs money." He says, "That's your problem, but you don't understand. He's got to pull himself up by the bootstraps." I said, "Roger, did you see him wearing any boots?" He had no boots on. But a lot of us think in that way.
Yeah, I think it's a tricky place, I think, because, one, thing that I keep saying all the time, we as Black people, we are not a monolith. Right? There's always this term, the Black community. And the Black community is not just one community. They're all these different facets.
Right.
And, I always find, because I'm talking to Black people, in all different lanes.
Mm-hmm.
And, there is a perspective that, again, going back to all of the valid excuses that are available, there are some of us who hold on to those excuses and do use those excuses as barriers. I do think at times that it is, I think at times it's a bit disingenuous to tell Black people to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Like case in point, all Black people don't have boots.
Right.
Right. But there's a fine line, because there is a level of accountability, right, and self-accountability,
yes,
that we have to have for ourselves.
Yes.
But at the same time, there's also, in terms of love for not just ourselves, but for our people. So when we talk about, again, there's this concept of why can't we all get along, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we should get along. And, I always go back to, I'm not convinced that human beings are designed for us to all get along,
mm-hmm.
right? Before this land was colonized, you had, natives were having tribal warfare.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Before Africa became colonized, there was tribal warfare there.
So a natural hierarchy is inevitable.
Yeah, hierarchy. Sure. I was going to say differences, but I think at the end of the day, if you get down to the crux of it, there is a hierarchy that is, I guess, you're right. There's a hierarchy that is.
But wouldn't you say, perhaps, that even though we are all different, we're not a monolith, there is a through line. There is a thread that if I've come across you, that there might be some things, especially if you're in America. I'm not saying if you go over to another country, because they have a different sense of self. If you're going to Liberia, it's totally different. They have a different, if you're in South Africa, totally different.
Yeah.
But if you are a person of color or what is considered Black in America, I do think there's a common through line. I'm throwing that out there.
Yeah, but with that common through line doesn't necessarily mean that we have that common through line and that we're all going to get along.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, true.
And so I think, kind of going to where you're going, or I believe that even in that not getting along, that common through line should be something. Like I look at, Jewish folks don't all get along, but they know how to do business together. Right?
Mm-hmm.
There is I think there is a level of understanding what our common agenda as people as Black Americans here. There's a common oppressor
mm-hmm.
and a common enemy, if you will, and common goals in terms of, as a people, moving us. I don't even know. I go back and forth. Is it moving us forward or
mm-hmm.
keeping us from going back?
Well, it's there's a consciousness of division, and somehow, as I said before, ego edging God out. I have to be better than you. I have to have more things than you. That makes me have value. But the thing is that, and not to be gross, but we all go to the bathroom. No matter how much money you have, what color you are, right? And when I do number 2 in the bathroom, I stink.
I did not know we were going to go there today. I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry.
but I see where you're going. I see where you're going.
But don't everybody?
We have gone there. Go ahead.
Don't everybody stink?
Everybody stinks. Everybody stinks.
Okay, but if you go and you smell like a rose, I'll worship you.
But I will say,
you said but too.
I did say but. if you sit in your stink long enough, then you forget that you stink.
Now that is true.
But I don't, because I can smell you. All I'm saying is I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
But you're saying if you sit in it long enough.
You said but.
What?
You said but.
I should have said booty, huh?
Oh,
I'm
my
sorry.
7-year-old's going to love this episode.
How did we get here? How did we get here?
I don't know. I'm not sure what happened. I didn't have enough coffee. I think that's what it was.
I thought we were talking about the predator, maybe. I don't know. Something in there. No, go ahead.
Get us back on track, please. It's his fault.
Oh my goodness.
No, I think we were, talking about, getting along.
Yeah.
And the way we tend to treat each other.
Yeah.
Which I think is also not necessary. That's not exclusive to a Black thing.
Sure.
Right? Because we live in a country, we live in a society where division is necessary all across the board, not just within Black communities, but to live in this American society. It's almost as if, our government, I don't think no government can function when the people are united.
And,
So division is a very deliberate tactic.
So no accident, huh?
No accident.
Can be. How can you govern? How can you rule over people who
are in order?
Yeah.
Because then what do you need governance for? Well, that solved about everything there. Thank you. We did it. Yeah. But you know what? But here's what I find too. You go wherever you land, and I'm sure this happened to you, but both of you, happens to me often. Wherever you land though, you do look for your people. And you understand that your people, whether you're a monolith or not, however you feel about, should you be giving $10 to the homeless person? When you land, wherever you land, you're going to look for your people because you're going to need them in America.
In this country.
In
America.
Yeah.
Sure.
So whatever they, I'm looking for that. I'm definitely looking for, and I'm wondering when you landed and said, I'm going to do this, again, especially being a pioneer, where you had to look far and wide, probably for people who look like you. How did you find your circle? How did you actually survive? Because I know where I work, you find your circle, but don't spend too much time with them because they're going to look at you and they're going to wonder, what are they talking about? Just pass each other, give each other the nod, but don't congregate, right? You have more than 2-3 people, y'all meeting for something. But in your world, what did that look like?
Well, the same, but as I said before, I was very fortunate to also have white friends that were executives, etc., that looked out for me. Then I had some Black executives who ignored me. So I don't make no assumption that just because you made it, you're going to look out for me. You know what I'm talking about?
I guess in my head, I thought it would have been, I don't know. I'm imagining, I know you started off in theater, and I'm imagining that group of people, as you spread out, so I'm making all this up, is what you're telling me, is that you spread out, stayed connected, helped each other along the way. Am I wrong in presuming some of that is a little true?
There was a place called the Negro Ensemble Company in New York. Historical. Douglas Turner Ward and Robert Hooks and some great people started that. So that's where folks came together, Black folks, to do plays and other things. My mentor came out of there. His name was Lloyd Richards. He's one of the first Black directors on Broadway with Raisin in the Sun with Sidney Poitier and others. And he mentored me. I met him at Boston University. And when he went to New York, I followed him there. And he was a guide. But one of the greatest things about Lord is his integrity. You never disrespected Lloyd Richards on any level. Because as peaceful as he was, he had a whole other side.
Really?
And one of the things he said to us, he said, never take my kindness for weakness. Because I do have other options.
I do have other options.
And guess what? No one ever took his kindness for weakness.
Wow. But he let you know up front.
Well, there was some people that didn't listen. And when you observe what happened to them, it wasn't pretty.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said. And again, I go back to you and Bob Guillaume and Lou Gossett. There's just there's something in just the way you carry yourself that people just know not to fool with you, not to take you for a fool, not to not to disrespect you. And again, being able to carry that throughout this industry, throughout your career, is huge. And also certain that it's cost you at the same time. Right? And I think that's why that integrity and dignity are oftentimes the first thing to go, because people are trying to get ahead.
Yeah.
People don't want to lose out on opportunities.
Well, you're totally right. I was in one show where, I think it was Kojak, I forget, where they dress up as a pimp, wearing high heel shoes and da-da-da. But that's the only time, because many times I was offered roles where they wanted me to wear a dress and high heel shoes, or other roles where they wanted me to dance and sing. And I don't put down people who've done it.
Sure.
But that's never what I thought I was set to do. And so the response of the industry was that I was a rebel, negative, hard to work with, all kinds of terms that meant he's not going to be obedient. Mm-hmm. So you have a choice, there are consequences to standing up for yourself, not bragging or anything, but just being who you are and who your parents were and your grandparents and the people that you're representing with your presence. The industry considers that madness. Yeah. What are you talking about? It's nothing to do with your family or your mother or your father.
Mm-hmm.
Get that damn dress on like we told you. And if you don't put the dress on, you don't dance and don't sing and smile enough, then there are consequences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and people who, as you said, don't take somebody, don't take Lloyd for a fool. Don't take you for a fool either. But you haven't acted foolish. And that's a big part of it too. You've kept your integrity so that you don't get that type of treatment. Though I would imagine that back then, was it hard to turn down some of those roles?
Oh, yes. No doubt about it.
Yeah. What was those conversations you were having with yourself or other people? Because we're talking about the same thing today in terms of Black men putting on dresses, and you hear about them reaching out to, this actor. And I asked them, should I do it? And they said yes or no. Those conversations, are they similar? When we go back years, similar to the ones that Black actors have now in terms of, do I put on the dress or not?
Well, there are consequences to not putting the dress on.
Yeah.
For me, there was a point where I was basically homeless, living in a closet with a friend of mine in the cat's closet. The cat was pissed at me because I was in the closet with the cat. And I ended up literally begging on the street. It's in New York City. And so I'm standing there in the street, you know, as people are passing by me. You got some change, you got some, you know. I'll never forget this. I was standing there and this older Black lady passing me. I said, ma'am, got some change? She passed by me. And I asked the next person, then I feel a tap on my back. I turn around, it's the same older Black lady. She looks at me, she says, son, do you mama know you're here doing this? I never begged again after that.
Like you said, the power of what your parents teach you.
God sends you things, you know.
Sure.
And I mean, people think I overstate this, but without God in my life, I wouldn't be here. I mean, I was in a plane crash. We crashed in the ocean. I don't swim. True story. And so I hit it was like called Panorama Tours, where I'd gone on vacation in Hawaii because I was just so exhausted. I was working hard, you know, I needed to get away. And so it's a twin-engine plane, you know, it's called an island hopper, goes from different islands. So we're going from, I think, capital to Maui, and the plane crashes, and the pilot hits the tail first and then the front of the plane. And there's a scar right here in my face, the seat in front of me. And I'm out, but it sounds real strange. But some consciousness or something rose above, and I could actually see myself sitting in the seat from this consciousness. And I woke up like this, and this physical body said, because I don't swim, the water's come up in the plane. Well, Bill, you always want to know how you're going to die, and how you know. Then this consciousness came back, and the pilot said, out of the plane, get in the wing, get out of the plane. I said, I don't swim. He said, get on the wing. So people are getting out of the plane, and he gives me a life jacket, and I said, what do I do with this? He put it around my neck. I never knew what a life jacket was. I didn't tie it, so I went on the wing. And he said, the plane's going to go down. Jump. I said, I don't swim. He says, jump. So I jump in the water. I didn't tie the life thing around my waist, so it came off. I go down once. I go down twice. Come down the third, and the life jacket's right here. I put it over my head again. And I paddle away to where the rest of the passengers are. And this lady who's floating in the water and just trying to stay afloat looks over and she says, look, boats, planes. I'm looking at her, I'm saying, this is a delusion, you know, because before you die, you're going to... She says, no, boats, planes. True story. The Hawaii Fire Department does emergency rescue maneuvers in different parts of the ocean 3 times a year. This day, they were 1/2 nautical miles from where we crashed. They saw the plane go in. Who's that?
Somebody bigger than all of us.
So we're on the boat comes, we're riding back and we're all shivering and stuff, because the water's cold. And I'm looking at the pilot. I'm saying, sir, thank you so much because, you saved our lives, and because you hit the back of the plane first and then the front. He looks at me and he says, don't thank me for whatever you believe in, think that. And he turns away and looks back at me and he starts crying like a baby. So I'm just saying, I'm not confused about what saves my life every day.
Go ahead. Someone told me, and this is when both my parents were alive, they said, and I was giving them condolences because their mother had died. And she said, when a parent dies, there's always before and after. Like, that's how your life is marked. Oh, that was before. And I was like, my goodness, my parents are alive. I didn't want to. She was exactly right. Like, everything that I think about now is, like, that was before my father died or after my father died. It changed completely. And I'm wondering, was that plane crash a before and after moment, like an awakening that really changed how you saw life and looked at it with a different lens?
Oh, yeah. It's like I was very successful, as a director, TV, a lot of stuff. Made great money, acquired things. And as my mother or father used to say, forgot where I came from. But that reminded me.
Mm-hmm.
The God joke.
Which one?
You have a mic. Go ahead.
You know how to make God laugh?
Have a plan.
Tell him your plans.
Yeah.
And so I've learned that lesson because I listen every day because I'm going to copyright this phrase because I realize true wisdom is the realization that when you're wise, you're still dumb.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, more. What is it? The more you know, the more you know you don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, if you just look at the sky at nighttime sometimes and look at the stars, you can't even forget the stars, you can't even count the galaxies. It's beyond our intellect. We really think that our intellect is not putting being smart down, but we're ants.
In the grand scheme of everything.
Yeah.
And we got to give recognition to the larger. I'm into quantum physics. I love quantum physics because it breaks everything down into subatomic particles. And if you look through an electron microscope at a subatomic particle, it responds one way. If I look at it, it responds differently. So it's conscious. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
even in this world of AI and computers where we think that we have it under control, it knows everything, we really don't. We really don't.
I don't know.
We can never in a machine try to beat out, what we're supposed to do as humans in life. Which is why we're in the situation that we're in. It's moving too fast for us to keep up. It's not moving in a natural order, artificial intelligence, not at all. That's why we're caught up.
Well, we have to take it and use it to our benefit and the benefit of others. You know, this friend of mine, I was in therapy at one time, you know, and I was talking to the therapist about, you know, the industry and trouble I was having and the rejection and and he was saying, you know, Bill, you're describing it like it's a big giant that has its foot on your neck. I said, yeah, that's how I feel sometimes. He said, you know, there's one thing you should always remember, Bill. If a giant has his foot on your neck, always remember, you can always bite his toe.
It's way out. There you go.
Toes are tender, right?
Yes.
I never forgot that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to bite that toe.
Yeah. I think there's a lot about being in this industry that feels like there's constantly a foot on our necks.
Right.
Like when we're talking about rejection. You know, I mean, we're in an industry where you're talking 90% rejection. Like
That's right.
As much as I've worked, I've been on stage since I was 9. I've been on television since I was 11, and I've been very fortunate to, you know, have a career where I've worked consistently. As much as I have worked, I probably have a 90% rejection rate. Like, this is a business where you are told no all the time. Like, I think this is the only industry where you will not get a job on things that have nothing to do with your A game. Even though you know that, you still have to bring your A game every single time. You can not get a role simply because you're too tall, or too short, or too dark, or too light, or they decide they're going to cast a woman, or they're going to cast a Hispanic, or they're going to cast a white person. Like, and that has nothing to do with your A game. But every single time, you still have to come, give your A game, and be told your A game is not good enough.
You have to be a special type of person to be in your industry.
You have to have thick skin. Yeah. You also have to know what you signed up for.
Yeah. Then eventually, though, does it become I'm just going to do this myself, especially these days. Let me just produce myself. Let me just, start my own network. We were talking about that early. Let me do for myself and be in control. Yes. Let me have my own podcast. It seems like, I don't know, has the rejection, has where we are kind of tempered the rejection, and that you have other things you could be doing on your own, because that's the name of the game. You got online, which is the equalizer. Has that changed your game?
I think the rejection is still the rejection.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, you do other things. I mean, it's the reason why I started directing, because we know that the acting is not, it's not the most stable. So you find other things. Like, I always tell the story about my mother, Cosby hit, it's this phenomenon. And my mom is like, okay, this is great. This show could be over next year. What are you going to do when the show's over?
Right.
We talked about longevity. So that was one of the reasons why I started directing early on. I was still a teenager when I was directing, because I was thinking about the long haul. I was thinking about the transition from being seen as child actor to being taken seriously as adult actor may not necessarily be a smooth one.
Mm-hmm.
So from the onset, I was always diversifying within the industry. So my income would not only be dependent upon acting. So I'm at a point now where I'm a director, of course, I'm a musician, I'm a poet. I have these other things that I do. So I'm not solely dependent upon getting an acting gig, but it doesn't make the rejection
easier.
I mean,
Right.
I mean, we know
Still
rejection is
hurts.
part of it. It
Yeah.
hurts.
Yeah.
And then, and most of the time it's cool, but then every now and then there's a role that you really, really wanted and you don't get it. And it knocks the wind out of you. You may have to take a knee for the day.
Right.
Right. And just sit in it and be like, okay, let me just feel what I'm feeling right now. And then tomorrow you wake up and
Next.
back at it again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I forgot the exact number, but recently I read online the percentage of actors that actually work annually.
Yeah, it's real small.
Yeah.
It's like really small, below 30%, right?
Yeah.
And so people may say it, but that rejection, as you say, it hurts because even if you're qualified, it still hurts. And that's why I do transcendental meditation, because when I'm rejected, I have something to fall back onto that gives me a wholeness and takes the stress out. But a lot of folks rely on drugs and drinks because it helps soothe the pain.
Now
And
that's how you made the transition to transcendental meditation.
Yes.
We have talked about this. Folks behind the scenes, the producers, they'll say to me, you should try it. You should try it. I have tried it. And Malcolm and I were talking about how we both fell asleep.
Transcendental meditation?
Yeah. Well, we shut our eyes, the home. I put the ocean waves on. I tried the rainforest. I turned it up. Then someone said to me, well, I think it was Lane, the producer. He said, well, maybe that's what you needed. You needed that sleep. I could see how it works. I'm just really fascinated by the fact that when you tried it, then you never turned back to drugs or alcohol at all.
Never, because what I was looking for in the drugs and alcohol to soothe the pain of rejection, meditation soothed it for me. I'll tell you a true story. This lady named Inga Tengamana introduced me, as a friend of mine, to transcendental meditation. At the time, I was working as an actor. I was in a play on Broadway, but still, I was, for other things, I was being rejected. I used to just drink and take drugs. And so she saw me go downhill, and she said, Bill, come on, you're destroying yourself. I said, yeah, leave me alone. So I got worse. She said, Bill, listen, I love you. Try this. I said, what? She said, meditation. It's going to take that pain away that you're feeling. I said, what? Just try it for 1 week. Try it for a few days. So I tried it for a few days, but I was still taking drugs and alcohol. She said, Bill, I'll tell you what. For 9 days, I want you to meditate without taking any drugs or any alcohol. And if after those 9 days, you still want to take drugs, I'll buy you all the drugs you want. I said, bet.
Sounds like a deal.
Yeah, that's a deal to me. So I know it's not going to work.
Mm.
So the first 2 days, it's okay. Third day, as you said, sleep and stuff. But around the fifth or sixth day, not only did I find peace, but the stress comes out through thoughts. And all these negative thoughts I had or whatever came out. And by the night, never took a drug since that time.
How long ago was this?
45 years.
Yeah, that is wow.
And how many times? So what's your meditation regimen? Do you do it once a day, a few times a day? And for how long?
Transcendental meditation, I took some advanced courses. And so my meditation, I wake up in the morning, meditate for an hour and a half. Sometimes in the evening, these half hour, 45 minutes. It saves my life.
Wow.
And I think the lives of others.
So do you do a mantra for an hour and a half?
It's a mantra. Yes, it's a mantra is a sound, an ancient sound that has no meaning, has a vibratory effect on the entire body system. But if you're consistent, even in the beginning, if you fall asleep, but if you're consistent over a period of time,
Mm-hmm.
and if you should go online and look under transcendental meditation and its medical benefits,
Mm-hmm.
just on YouTube, it's going to blow your mind.
Really?
Oh, they have scientists that have studied meditation with hundreds of people meditating, blood pressure, all kinds of other stress levels go down.
So would you say, we're in the middle of an opioid epidemic? We're in the middle of a lot of epidemics. But you're saying that you would say this is a formula for everyone?
Yes. I mean, I was on drugs.
Yeah.
So I'm not just talking from speculation. It saved my life. If it wasn't for Tim, I wouldn't be here today.
Yeah. That's amazing.
So I'm just talking from experience, not from speculation. But, some folks are hard-headed.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear it. And there's nothing you can do except you love them and you try to give them the best you can information-wise, but they don't want to hear you.
Yeah. It's like we were talking earlier about oftentimes we can't save the world, so we have to work within our circle of influence.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly right. Do what you can, right?
Yeah.
Starting with yourself.
Yeah.
And, that's why today particularly, I have grandkids, as I told you, and, look online and see what's happening on Instagram and with these, just to get attention and getting eyeballs and making money and what they're doing is sacrificing. And I have some concerns, about the future,
Mm-hmm.
because in terms of values, and there's certain things that I've witnessed that it's changed since I was a child, I tell this thing over and over again. This is like 2 years ago. I was in Target's or Trader Joe's. I forgot which one anyway. I was shopping, and I'm shopping. This young white mother with her son, he must have been around 7 years old, no more than 8. And he's knocking things off the shelves onto the floor. And Mom says, "Bobby, stop. You shouldn't be doing that." This little boy looks his mother in the face. And he said, "You really should shut your damn mouth because you know what the hell you're talking about." That's what she says to him. "Now, Bobby, you shouldn't be talking to Mommy like that." What would happen to you if you told your mother to shut her damn mouth because she knows what she's talking about?
I would have never said that. I would have never even thought to have said that. Never.
Is it important to ask?
What would have happened to you?
Is it important to ask?
Never.
They weren't black. They couldn't have been black. I just wanted to make sure. I don't know if that was an important question to ask or not.
I have a friend whose mom, no matter what the story is, it could be there was a tornado and everybody's out of their house. She has to know if they're black or if they're white before we continue with the story. Yeah, it's like, why does that have anything to do with the story? It's like, it will eventually have to do something with the story, right?
It informs a lot.
It informs a lot.
But he got away with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure. That wasn't the first time he said that. Yeah.
Yeah. Because look, he's out in the open doing it.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, parenting is, I know I had, one, my daughter would never say that to me, but I know I had all of these preconceived ideas of what kind of father I was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this happens.
You'll do that.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. And, you know, what I was faced with, even when my daughter was a baby, was so much of that stuff went out the window. Like when you're present to this human being in front of you,
Yes.
you're dealing with the present, and whatever that other stuff, like it doesn't even matter. And a lot of it doesn't even come into play.
Right.
If you're present and you're mindful of who this human being is in front of you.
Right.
So I've definitely, I found myself doing way more negotiating with my kid.
Who's in charge here, right?
that I had ever planned.
And you have a little girl. That makes a big difference.
Man.
Oh boy.
Mhm.
But the world is different,
Yeah.
right? Like when we were growing up, it would be no, and I don't want to hear your mouth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Real simple.
Whereas now, for us, it's like, no, you can feel however you want to feel about it, but no is still no.
Mm.
Because like for me, I was an obedient kid. And in many ways, being an obedient kid, obviously it served me in many ways.
Sure.
I think it's also hindered me in some ways. And with my daughter, because we're older parents, I'm less interested in raising an obedient child than I am in raising a person who is going to be able to fully express herself
Mhm.
and to be able to, have her voice. So I think oftentimes as parents, we want our kids to self-regulate at 5 years old.
Sure.
But they can't self-regulate if they don't know how to express.
True. Yeah.
Right?
It's a fine line there. You have to balance.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
it's really interesting because there's a level of expression that my daughter is allowed that I wasn't necessarily allowed. And again, we're not talking anywhere near disrespect.
Right.
Mhm.
We're not at
There's
Target yet.
No.
No. We're not going to Target.
But there are times like now I understand being a kid, and sometimes Mama was like, just shut up. Shut up.
Mhm.
Right. Just
Right.
shut it down.
I get
That's
it.
the answer.
I get it because I'm like, I know what that feeling is. But I know for me, and also because I know how I can be when my emotional level rises. So I'm often mindful of, again, allowing that sense of expression because I don't ever want to shut her down.
Right.
Because I want her to always be able to use her voice no matter what situation she's in,
Mhm.
especially when I'm not around.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It presents a little bit more of a challenge than all of the things that I had envisioned.
Plus, kids
Mhm.
they're so different, slightly more dynamic and understanding their rights and privileges so that they say things like, I'm being triggered, or I need a safe space. Or I have had a couple of friends who somehow they, Child Protective Services got called because mommy made them make breakfast. I can't believe she's making me make breakfast.
Whoa.
And off
What?
the call, they had to come and do the visit. Are they being abused? No. I just told her to put the Pop-Tart in the oven. And now she's going to start doing that this school year. Not me, but Child Protective Services came. They are a different breed in this year, a much different breed. But, you were talking earlier, and I know that you're very, your documentary.
I'm sorry, I'm still stuck.
You're still stuck.
Yeah,
You're stuck in the
Me too.
Pop-Tart.
Me too.
Kid
Pop
calling
it out.
Child Protective Services. Wow.
Yeah. Oh, more than one friend.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. They're all black. One of them did go to school, and when she told her white girlfriends what happened, just, I have to make breakfast. Her white girlfriends told her, that's not right. And then by the time she got home, her mom was there and Child Protective Services.
Wow.
And then after Child Protective Services left, it wasn't like Target. Let's put it that way. but
the last time she called,
no more calls were made.
Yeah, no more calls were made. No more calls were made. You know, when I've talked to you before, and I thought what was really interesting was that all of a sudden we were talking about BBLs, and I thought that was so interesting. And I'm sitting there talking to Bill Duke about BBLs, but I know that self-image and how we see ourselves is big in what you are trying to share with the world. Your documentary, Dark Girl, still resonates. We were talking about that yesterday. We were talking about light skin, dark skin. But your particular idea about self-image, what's the wisdom that you have to share with us?
If you don't love yourself, no matter how much someone else loves you, it's relevant only to a certain extent because you appreciate their love, but there's a part of you that's never going to be healed. We are taught to look for love outside of ourselves, music, movies, everything. But this self-love, you look in that mirror and you love what you see and you respect what you see. You care about what you see. That's the bottom line. No matter how much money, fame, you see people crashing every day. More cars than they can ever drive, 3 mansions in different countries, and dollars. You know? It's about you loving you. That's the bottom line. And then extending that love outside of yourself to others. But you loving you first. First.
And I would add on to that we live in a society that makes low self-esteem marketable. Right?
Very true.
There are huge industries that are predatory industries, for people who don't believe in themselves, who don't like the way their face looks, or their lips, or their butt, or their breasts. It's a low self-esteem is a marketing tactic.
That's right.
And I think that's important for people to understand, that there are industries that depend on our low self-esteem.
Yep. So true.
And with that,
look, we didn't even mention, so many things. I just want to say the word predator, okay? Can I get it out there? I just want to say, Black Lightning. I just want to say all that. I just want to say that it has been just amazing. I mean, Sister Act 2, we could go on. You more than worth the Google. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yes, indeed.
Thanks for being here.
God bless you both. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Nah Not Our Hood. You have no idea how much of a treat this is for us. So please like, comment, subscribe. Just join the conversation. We appreciate you.